Hi everyone! People who claim they never had a bad haircut are obviously lying.
I promise we're done. Wait.
We've all been there. We just asked for a little trim and somehow ended up with a completely new hairstyle. Well, during the quarantine, the number of unsuccessful hair experiments only increased because many people, out of boredom or frustration, picked up scissors and decided to do a haircut. Today, we'll tell you about the most epic hairstyles and people who regretted having them. Let's get it on! In the late 60s, punk music was on the rise in the English-speaking world. The fans didn't just go to concerts and purchase records of their favorite artists. Each punk tried to stick to a certain image: a leather jacket, bracelets with spikes, heavy leather shoes, and of course, a mohawk, a symbol of true punk. Well, this guy, although born several decades later, clearly loves this style. That's the only explanation of his hairstyle. But do not worry, this is not an unsuccessful experiment by a hairstylist. In fact, it was an arrangement. The mother promised her sons that after the end of the school year, she would allow them to have any hairstyle, no matter how crazy it was. After all, by September, the hair will grow back, and the boys will be happy too. We believe that this is parenting done right. Cristiano Ronaldo has been a football star for many seasons in a row. Millions of people admire his style of play, but the looks of the famous player spark just as much interest among the fans. The former striker of Real Madrid loves to show off his impeccable physical shape and avant-garde hairstyles. Most often, the Portuguese star shaves his head and temples, sometimes adding an unusual pattern to this area, leaving long hair on his parietal area. It looks very stylish and always stays fresh. This young football fan also wanted to have a hairstyle like Ronaldo's. As all the barbershops were closed due to a pandemic, his father volunteered to help him with that. The only problem is that for Dad, this name meant a different Ronaldo, the Brazilian striker, who had retired a long time ago, though he is still considered one of the best players in the history of football. Of course, the father didn't do this by mistake. He understood what kind of hairstyle his son wanted. After all, he even showed him a photo on the phone. But you see, it would be a pity to miss such a chance to prank the kid. At the end of the video, you can see how the boy clutches his head in despair, and his father, dying with laughter, shouts, "There's only one Ronaldo!"
There's only one Ronaldo.
Perhaps we owe you some explanations. The Brazilian Ronaldo didn't actually love this hairstyle. In 2002, the World Cup was held in Japan and South Korea, and the Brazilian team was dominating since the first match. Before the final game against the Germans, the star of the Brazilian team, Ronaldo, suffered a serious leg injury. The media and the people discussed this a lot, and the witty player decided to distract their attention from the problem in order to feel more confident on the field. His plan worked. When the player stepped onto the field with a strange triangle on his head, everyone forgot about his leg right away. Ronaldo scored 2 goals, became the top player of the tournament, and led his team to a triumphant victory. Isn't he a genius? Nathan Vallis from Springfield, USA, never spent more than half an hour on a haircut. But one day, he was served by a new stylist who spent an unusually long time cutting his hair. This already seemed suspicious to Nathan. She also did not let him see what it looked like till she was done. Looking at these photos, you'll understand why. They were published by Nathan on his Facebook page, and the post immediately went viral. Most users agreed that the hairstylist was apparently inspired by the character played by Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. The funniest thing is that, as Nathan puts it, right after the haircut, his hair looked fine. It wasn't until he showered that he realized how bad it actually was. Fortunately, several barbers reached out to him personally, offering to fix his hair for free. So in a couple of days, Nathan got his hair fixed and no longer looked like Lloyd Christmas. Here's another guy who ended up looking like Jim Carrey. He just dropped in one of the salons of a large American barbershop chain for a quick haircut and came out looking like a real-life meme. What could be easier than trimming your bangs? After all, this is the only part of your hair that you can see perfectly. You just need a mirror and scissors. Actually, it's not that simple. Even if you watch a ton of tutorials on the internet without experience, you still risk turning your haircut into a total mess, and these girls from TikTok prove it. The main issue is that it is almost impossible to determine the desired length by eye. It may seem not short enough, and then it's too late to fix it. Also, hair zones differ from person to person, so the chance to mess up the haircut is too real. While girls with long hair can do without a haircut for a couple of months, it's hard to spot any difference in the length. This will not work for short haircuts. That is why during quarantine, many guys had no choice but to ask their girlfriends to help them with their haircuts. As you might have guessed, such experiments did not always end successfully. It seems like the guy in this video did not really hold much faith in his girlfriend's skills right from the start. His terrified look says it all. And he was right. For some reason, she insisted on starting from the top of his head instead of at the temples. As a result, it looks like he has a very weird mohawk with bald patches, which he has to hide under a hat now. The poor guy in this photo was also the victim of a haircut done at home. It's easy to get what he feels by his stiff smile. By the way, the opinions in the comments section were divided. Some wrote that it was not that bad, while others told the guy to stay strong or openly made fun of him. It seems like this guy's wife just came up with a new hairstyle. Usually, people shave only the back of the head or all of it except for the vertex. But the author of this masterpiece decided to go against the rules and come up with a new style. We can only guess what the husband thinks about all this. This guy had everything he needed to get a good haircut. It would seem that simply using a trimmer should have been easy enough. The only problem was his girlfriend's friend had removed the nozzle from the device, and now there's a whole section of clean-shaved skin at the back of his head. Whoops. Until a few years ago, we only had to charge our mobile phones and computers. Now there are many more devices, so no wonder we sometimes forget about some of them. Here is one such case. The trimmer decided to switch off right at the crucial moment. Fortunately, this ridiculous hairstyle can still be fixed. You just need to wait until the trimmer is fully charged. Voluntary suffering probably only makes sense when you do it for a good cause. Like the guy in this video, for example. At first glance, you might think that he has just had his hair cut by a crazy barber, but you gotta admit that it's a bit hard to believe. It's much more simple, actually. A local charity organized an unusual contest of terrible hairstyles to raise funds for the treatment of cancer patients. Quite deserving of respect, wouldn't you say? The bowl haircut is called so because of its unusual shape. Since the hair around the entire head is cut at the same length, it looks like the client had a bowl placed on his head. Of course, professional hairdressers do not do anything of the sort. Imagine what it would look like. But if we're talking about a quarantine home hair salon, why not fool around? It turned out not that bad, by the way. Any hair colorist will tell you, do not try to dye your hair at home. First of all, you can just ruin it due to the wrong proportions, low quality products, or poor care. Secondly, the chance to dye your hair evenly by yourself is close to zero. Nonetheless, in order to save money and get a quick result, some people are ready for experiments, and they often end badly. The girl from this video decided not to just touch up the washed out pigment, but to completely bleach the bangs and dye them fuchsia. Keep in mind, she had dark hair that requires special care when using bleachers. Long story short, some of the strands simply fell off, even though a haircut was clearly not part of the girl's plans. Aluminum foil is usually used for highlighting. It separates the chosen strands from the rest of the hair and does not damage them. However, in some cases, they use a special cap and thread individual strands through it. This would-be master decided to try this method on a friend, but apparently forgot that it does not take much time to bleach the hair. As a result, the curls, which had been steaming in the dye for a good 2 hours, fell off the head along with the cap.
Gino. What?
The cheaper brands of hair dye always advertise their products so convincingly that we can hardly judge this girl. However, the fact remains, instead of a cheek blonde hairstyle, she got a spectacular bald spot on her head. In several seasons of the TV series Orange is the New Black, a character named Crazy Eyes, aka Suzanne Warren, has a funny hairstyle made up of many tight buns. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to imitate the people from TV in real life, and this girl learned it the hard way. In the 1970s and 80s, an eccentric performer David Bowie was one of the biggest rock stars. He ascended the musical Olympus with an unusual haircut called a mullet. Before Bowie, it was associated with the marginal part of society, but has since firmly established itself as the height of fashion. This hairstyle was especially chic among rock musicians and their fans. Short hair in the front and on the sides, and luxurious long hair at the back. Today, mullet is not considered a serious haircut anymore, but there are still true fans of this style. In Australia, there's even a festival dedicated to it. Over 100 people with mullets come to participate in the contest for the best hair, socialize, and celebrate the unjustly forgotten rock and roll culture.